What's up, guys? Hey, how we doing? So today's video is kind of a little bit gloomy. It's got to be talked about, man. This KTM thing is out of control. I'm going to tell you exactly where it stands and what might happen and what's already happened. We've had another major track closing. Arizona Cycle Park is in trouble. I'm going to get into that. I'm going to tell you why they're closing and if they can reopen and what we can do to help. I'll tell you how you can help yourself. Get yourself some Nano-Xtreme. I'm telling you, there's not a better pain cream that I've ever used. And I've used darn near everything because like you guys, I have a lot of aches and pains and I have a shoulder that is really bad. I mean, it's straight bone on bone. I use this stuff regularly. Anytime my shoulder starts hurting or if I sleep on it wrong, I'll wake up and it's sore. I throw some Nano-Xtreme on it. No problem. I'm good to go. It's crazy how good this stuff works. Head over to Nano-Xtreme, use code COOKSY for free shipping. I'm telling you, you will thank me later. Are you getting in shape? Do you need to know how to get in shape, how to do it properly, how not to burn yourself out? Head over to Complete Racing Solutions. Coach Rob has the education behind everything. He understands the body from a physiological level like not a lot of human beings do. You can get on his program for $15 a month. Head over to Complete Racing Solutions. And I want to give a shout out to Sea of 7. Sea of 7 is just a really cool clothing company. I reached out because my son loves the clothes and they'd sponsored me a while ago and it was an on-off deal. My son's like, hey, I need some stuff and I love Sea of 7. And he's 22 years old, so he's pretty cool and he's very picky. And he's like, yeah, I need Sea of 7. It's cool. I'm like, okay, I will take his word for it. So I reached out to Sea of 7 and they loaded me up with stuff for my son. So check out Sea of 7. They are cutting edge when it comes to style, stuff that I know nothing about, but I appreciate that they make me look cool in front of my kid.
You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
All right, so this Pierre Group KTM financial debacle is much larger than the media here in the United States is talking about. This thing is gigantic. They are so in debt. And it's disgusting the way that they're handling it. The current management should be ashamed of themselves. They have not paid the employees for November and December. At the factory in Austria this week, there was a fight. Apparently, they laid off a bunch of employees, which I'm guessing they had been promised that they would be retained, and they haven't been paid. It's ugly. It's so ugly, the government stepped in on Friday and had a meeting. And this is on the heels of them firing the head of European KTM or Pierre Group, and also the VP of marketing, clipped, and retaining Citibank. And that's what's terrifying is when Citibank comes in there. So what Citibank does, they don't care about the Pierre Group. They don't care about the company. They're not there to, play hero and rejuvenate this thing. They're there to get money for the creditors or for the debtors, the people who are owed money. They're there to say, okay, what does Pierre Group have? What is the value? What can we get for it? And what can we do to settle up their $3 billion debt? They are essentially slicing and dicing the Pierre Group, selling it off piece by piece, and trying to see what's profitable, what they can get money for, what they can't. They have contacted CF Moto and an Indian company called BAJAJ. I don't know how you say it, Baja. They've brought in Baja and CF Moto to try and bid. And this is actually pretty clever by the Citigroup because the Chinese group and the Indian groups dislike each other severely. So they're both going to probably drive up the price of whatever piece they decide to purchase. But whatever they get their hands on, is CF Moto going to go racing the same way that the Pierre Group has with Gas, Husqvarna, and KTM? Or what about Baja? Are they going to have to redo and get a new race team? Because the race teams are separate. They're a separate company based out of Switzerland for tax reasons, of course. But how on earth can they justify paying a win bonus if Chase Sexton goes out and wins Anaheim and gets a $100,000 bonus? How do you justify paying Chase Sexton that bonus when the employees from the factory haven't been paid for November and December? I don't think the courts are even going to allow that to happen. And in those court meetings on Friday, they've done away with Moto 2 and Moto 3, the road racing teams. They're saying the MotoGP team has enough money to go through 2024, but they wouldn't, or 2025, but they wouldn't commit beyond that. But the Moto 2 and Moto 3 teams, gone. But this meeting that they had on Friday doesn't mean anything if they can't significantly reduce debt by the next meeting on January 24th. There's another meeting on January 24th. This is the big one. If they cannot show a significant reduction in debt and the fact that they can become a profitable company again, it's over. At this point, I don't see them continuing with anything, AMA, MotoGP. I don't see it going anywhere. So it is terrifying for these teams and riders. And I can't imagine, going into the season, putting in all that work and knowing January 24th, Citibank or these other people could come in there and decide, you know what? It's not profitable. You're out. All these hollow promises that they're making. I mean, try and tell the employees that haven't got paid. Oh yeah, they promised they'd pay them. They promised they'd keep a lot of people employed. They're also promising these teams that they can make it through the year. Can they? Because they've lied on everything else or come up short on whatever they promised. What makes us think that this is different? So we will see these teams start the race season. They're all going to be good for January 11th. But like I said, once they hit January 24th, that's when we find out who's going to make the season or where they're going to go from there. That is the key meeting that we need to watch. So until January 24th, I guess it's business as usual. But man, that has got to be a serious black cloud looming over all these teams and racers. And unfortunately, from what I've talked to, the people that I've talked to, Gas is going to be the first to go because they are essentially just a red KTM. There's no additional value. So they're not profitable. They're literally just taking away sales from KTM. That is a brand they need to get rid of. Now that might be the first one that sells to CF Moto or Baja or some other company, or they may just shut it down completely. The question I have is if CF Moto buys it, where are they going to produce these bikes? They can't produce the exact same bike that the Austrians are producing in the CF Moto factory. It would be a significant change, and I don't know how they would work that. That's something we're all going to have to wait and see. But the first thing I would be worried about is gas. If I'm a gas rider right now, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that my job will be pulled on January 24th because it sure looks like it. I mean, I can't find any logical reason with these numbers why they would continue with gas. Now, Husqvarna and KTM, I think they'll make it through the season, but beyond that, who knows? So with Citibank coming in here and chopping up anything that is not a revenue stream and trying to make this thing profitable, it puts an extra light on what I've been talking about. So this sport has an entertainment value that is not being shared with the teams and riders. They're bringing in a significant gambling sponsorship, upwards of 20 plus million. I don't know the exact number, but it's big. The TV contract that they're negotiating for 2026 is approximately 200 million per year. That's what the value is based on the current numbers. Now, let's say these teams get a percentage of the gambling sponsorship, not like gambling. That freaks everybody out when I say that, but no, the actual gambling sponsorship and the TV revenue. If they got a significant piece of that, these teams could operate at a profit or a very low loss. So then when you get someone like Citibank who comes in and they're all worried about just dollars and they look at the dollars and cents that are being spent to go racing and that sales aren't there, they go, well, there, we can cut that. But if these teams were able to either break even or spend very little, considering the amount of exposure and advertising, it would become a bargain. And Citibank would go, well, there's no reason to shut them down because they pretty much pay for themselves with their own entertainment revenue and they provide us all this advertising. So it wouldn't make any sense to get rid of the teams. That is what I've been screaming for, people. That is what will secure this sport for the future and beyond. As it sits right now, these factories, KTM, Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Suzuki, all they pay 100% of the bill to go racing. They get nothing in return other than their advertising value. What I'm saying is we've hit a point where the entertainment value should bleed into these teams and make them more stable. So if we have anything like this with a factory in the future, it's still solid. Nobody's going to get rid of a team that brings in its own revenue. Once you can justify it on paper, they're good and we don't have to worry about them. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about greed. I'm not talking about, taking money that's not theirs or taking, money that promoters work for. I'm talking about building a stronger business plan for the entertainment value to keep this sport and keep the sport growing. Believe it or not, this is actually going to benefit the promoters considerably. They are ensuring their investment, their hard work, their building of this series sticks around. Because right now, if these teams pull out, this thing folds. It's done. Nobody's going to go watch just if there's no really riders there. You can do all the fireworks you want, but if you do not have the top teams and the top riders, people are not going to pay to go watch them. It's just how it is. I love arena cross, but they don't get these gigantic stadiums and people clamoring because it's not the highest level. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And even if fans don't ride, they will still pay attention to the entertainment value. So this thing still has value. Even if the industry keeps shrinking and bike sales keep reducing, the sport still has a value in an entertainment aspect. Look at football. How many adults actually play football? Not very many, but a lot watch it. Yes, we might have played it one time or we kind of are familiar with it, but we don't have to actually participate in these events to enjoy their entertainment value, and that is worth something. It's worth something to these teams, these factories, and if they can become their own business within their businesses, they are no longer expendable. And, I get it. KTM's blaming hard times, and yes, it is hard times, but really, it's all bad management on KTM. But yes, this industry goes up and down, up and down. But if we lose the highest exposure in Supercross, say these teams all pull out and we lose Supercross, they're all doomed. Now, if we can keep the teams going, even in down times when these factories aren't selling as many, you're still breeding interest and you're breeding the opportunity for this to keep going. We have to keep it going at the highest level to ensure it keeps going at the local level. And while everyone's trying to split the atom to fix this whole situation, listen, KTM made some horrible decisions by buying MV Agusta, by buying the e-bike company at the peak of COVID. They've made some horrible decisions. They've fudged numbers, they've lied, they've done all sorts of crap. That's a bad company. But if these race teams provided their own revenue, they would be solid. No matter how many bad decisions executives make, they would be solid. That would become its own leg of the business. That's all I'm asking for. I want this sport to become standalone. There's enough money now that it can. 20 years ago? No, that wasn't the case. They were just happy to have a place to go race. Promoters didn't make a ton of money. We have hit a point where the entertainment dollars are surpassing the factories on what they make selling bikes. So now it's a time to adjust the model to keep this thing going. Check out Epic Garage Designs. Travis has the coolest stuff over there. Hey, and if you need blinds and you're in the Las Vegas area, hit up Epic Blinds. Travis has been doing a lot of blinds lately. He's focusing more on the blinds these days. So check out Epic Blinds if you want anything, or Epic Garage if you want to make that garage look badass. Check out Ride Strap, some of the coolest goggles, glasses, t-shirts. And this is a company that truly believes in growing the sport on the grassroots level and bringing families together and really doing it the right way. So hit up Ride Strapped, get your shirts, goggles, glasses. If you're shipping anything, use Precision Transport. Precision Transport is a shipping company that believes in providing proper tracking numbers, reasonable pricing, and just really good customer service. And that's rare in the shipping business. So hit up pretransport.com if you have anything you need to ship and you want to know your stuff's going to get there when they say it's going to get there. Bad news in Arizona. Arizona Cycle Park, the gigantic facility just outside of Phoenix, Arizona, that hosts the AZ Open, among many other large events. They've got sand drags. They are being forced to close. This is part of the whole insurance thing that I've talked about. If you watch my videos, you'll know major insurance companies are backing out of covering motocross tracks because there's too many lawsuits. The lawsuits have outweighed what they're charging, and let's be honest, these insurance companies are scumbags. If they're not making a significant amount of profit, they're out. As soon as they have a bad year, even though we could pay for 10 years, they have one bad year, they're out. That's just who these scumbags are. It's a hard fact of life. It sucks, but that's where we're at right now. And it's not solely the blame of X Brand goggles. X Brand is probably the most egregious and scumbag one that I've seen, but it's the significant number of lawsuits and the amount paid out that has caused these insurance companies to go away. And the reason that X Brands is so egregious is they're literally suing their own customers and putting their own customers out of places to ride. Disgusting, and that's what makes me so mad about that one. And I'm not saying there's not reasons to sue tracks. The one in Ponca City where the poor flagger got hit, that's probably a reasonable lawsuit, and I can actually understand that. But the one with Rich Taylor, frivolous, those are the ones that have to go. And with this insurance crisis, we need to take a little bit of responsibility as riders ourselves. What can we do to help the tracks survive? Because it is going to be a tough 2025. This is the first in a lot of these tracks when their insurance policy's up and they have to renegotiate. It's going to be hard to justify whether the revenue coming in will match what they have to go paying out because the insurance rates are going to jump significantly. And we can't count on the AMA. All they do is sit back and collect your money. They don't do anything to help you. We need to figure out a way And in the meantime, what we're going to have to do is discourage anyone from doing a frivolous lawsuit against a track. That is the number one thing. What we can also do is if you see some new riders at the track, walk over, take it upon yourself to go over and educate them about safety basics. A lot of tracks don't do this. I wish they would. And tracks, they need to have safety meetings. They need to have new riders make sure they come in and go through a safety briefing before they go out there, because that's a big problem in our sport. We just send people out there and like, oh, I hope you figure it out, or hope you know somebody that teaches you. Most tracks don't have this basic stuff. I know some of you do, and some of you are cutting edge, but not everybody, and that is a problem. And I can't tell you how many times I've been at the track where a rider's down in a blind spot, and you see 7 guys ride past them and do nothing. What you need to do is exit the track safely, go back, let people know there's a downed rider in a dangerous spot. It's not that hard. Break up your moto. It's just simple common courtesy. If you see a kid on the big track or a big bike on the kids track, stop them. It is not a matter of how fast the kid is. It's a size difference. I'm 220 pounds on a 450. If I collide with a kid, it doesn't matter how fast he is going to get hurt. We've seen it time and time again. It's not about the level of speed of the kid, because we've had some kids that were like high level also get landed on by big bikes. And another thing is, please don't complain about track fees. Just know these tracks are not making a fortune. It takes a lot of money to pay to have that track open for that insurance. Please pay the track fee, don't complain, and just know you're doing your part. And hopefully this will come around and insurance rates will drop and maybe we'll get better prices. But what you're paying for is to keep the track open. Consider it a donation. Consider it doing your part to make sure this thing survives, instead of complaining or whining and saying, oh, it's too much. You got to understand, if these guys don't turn a profit, these tracks go away, and then we all complain that there's nowhere to ride. Pay the track fee, don't complain, ride, be very courteous of other riders. If you see somebody doing something unsafe, educate them, or let somebody know, hey, this kid's doing unsafe stuff, we've got to stop them. We have to be responsible for ourselves. Anyway, thank you guys for everything. I appreciate it, especially all you guys have joined as members. Really soon, by the end of this month, we are giving away